Hey, big news, everyone. The U.S. Supreme Court has lifted the injunction that was against FinCEN and the Department of Treasury that prevented them from requiring you to file a BOI for your LLC or corporation. Now, it's critical you understand what the Supreme Court did, what other cases are out there, and what FinCEN is actually saying right now. I've been reading the headlines, and they're not telling you the whole story. The only injunction that the Supreme Court removed, this was January 23rd, yesterday, the only injunction was the Texas Top Cop Shop case. This was the federal district court in Texas. It went through the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals twice and bounced back and forth. It finally went to the U.S. Supreme Court a couple weeks ago. They just ruled yesterday and lifted that injunction, which essentially was a rule and an order that said, FinCEN, you cannot force people to file this. But there is another case with an injunction in place that prevents the federal government from collecting a BOI against you. That's the good news right now if you don't want to file a BOI. That case is called Smith versus Department of Treasury. It is also coincidentally a Texas District Court federal case where a judge has ordered FinCEN to not collect BOIs from LLC owners or corporations. So even though Texas Top Cop Shop case went down in the U.S. Supreme Court, and they removed the injunction for now. I'm going to come back to what's happening in that case. There is another order preventing the federal government from collecting a BOI or requiring you to file your BOI. Now, the BOI, this is the Business Ownership Information Report. This is a form you have to file if you own an LLC or corporation. This is a new law that went into effect in 2024. And on this form, you had to say who owned 25% or more of your LLC or corporation, or who had substantial control. You never had to file this on an LLC or corporation. LLCs and corporations were always set up at the state level. You'd file it with your state, and maybe you'd go get a tax ID from the IRS or federal government, but that's it. However, as part of the Corporate Transparency Act, this new law that went into effect in 2024 said you need to file a BOI. Now, there's 10 plus cases going around in federal courts right now about whether the BOI filing is constitutional or not. The big one was Texas Top Cop Shop case. This is the one that the Supreme Court just ruled on. Now, the Supreme Court's ruling did not talk about whether this is constitutional or not. They didn't get into anything about the merits of the case. The only thing the Supreme Court ruled on was whether a federal district court judge had the authority to grant a nationwide ban. That was it. That was the only ruling in Texas Top Cop Shape. So the Supreme Court ruling did not say BOIs were constitutional. The Supreme Court didn't even consider that question. They only considered the issue of, can a federal district court judge rule nationwide to stop FinCEN from collecting this? And they said they cannot. And they said, let's send this back to the Fifth Circuit. So Texas Top Cop that one's a mouthful. Texas Top Cop Shop case is going back down to the Fifth Circuit. There's oral arguments scheduled at the end of March. There's going to be months before they issue a decision after that. So that is not going quickly. But that's just one case. All right. Now, that case, let's say that the government or the plaintiffs lose in that case down the Fifth Circuit. One of them is going to. They will then appeal and go back up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And then the U.S. Supreme Court can decide whether to take the case, and they will look at the actual merits and rule on whether this BOI filing requirement is constitutional or not. But again, that's just one case. There is another national injunction in place that prevents FinCEN from requiring you to file a BOI. That case is called Smith versus Department of Treasury. Okay, now in that case, it's also a district court case, federal district court case. So I don't know that you want to rely on that case forever. It is possible the Supreme Court could say, you know what, we're going to make the same ruling on that case there. But this case is not at the Supreme Court yet right now. So that Smith case is not sitting up at the U.S. Supreme Court for them to rule on it. It's down in the Fifth Circuit itself as well. So we're not certain what's going to happen on that. Frankly, I don't know that the Department of Justice under Trump right now is going to push the issue or not. They might like the Smith injunction staying in place right now and may not want to move the case along. All right, now here is the really critical part, the most critical part right now for you to know. You can be reading news stories right now, watching other YouTubes. I'm telling you, 90% of the stuff I've read on this is wrong right now. People are getting it wrong. They're hitting the headline of this Texas Top Cop Shop case and telling you you've got to file a BOI right now. That's not true. That's not true. There's still another injunction against FinCEN in the Smith case. Okay. Now, is that Smith case injunction going to last forever? Ever? Probably not. But right now, I'm just telling you, on just January 24th, 2025, you don't have to file a BOI. There's legally not a requirement to do it. Now, where are we going from here? The most significant thing, FinCEN themselves, this is a few days into the Trump administration, has put up a notice. You can go to fincen.gov to read it. It's in the description below. This is critical. Go read what their FinCEN is saying right now. They're saying you don't have to file right now. We know about this Texas Top Cop case. You don't have to file because of the Smith case and the injunction. You can only file voluntarily right now if you'd like to. All right, so that's the legal status of where we're sitting today. Now, the Smith case is going to be moving through. There's another case in the 11th Circuit, by the way, that's already had oral argument, and it's probably the case that's the furthest along. In that case, we're awaiting a decision from the 11th Circuit. Now, these circuit courts, you hear 5th Circuit, 9th Circuit, 11th Circuit, these are the federal appeals courts. So you have federal district court judges, which first get a case. You can appeal to a federal appeals court. Those are numbered. 5th Circuit, 11th Circuit, 9th Circuit. And then from there, you appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. All right. So right now, there's another case in the 11th Circuit we're waiting a decision on. That could be determinative and very helpful. Texas Top Cop Shop case is back down at the 5th Circuit, oral argument in March. And this Smith case from the district court is sitting at the 5th Circuit as well. But that injunction is still in play. Okay. It still prevents FinCEN from requiring you to file a BOI right now. All right. Now, a lot of people are asking, well, what is Trump going to do? Okay. What is this new administration going to do? What is FinCEN going to do? We don't know yet. That was the first thing I was scouring as I was getting on last minute here. Has Trump made a statement on this yet? There is a bill pending in Congress right now. It's getting bipartisan support because a lot of small business owners are speaking up on this and they're kind of pissed off about it and all the back and forth. And do I need to file this thing or not? What's the deal? All right. That bill is called the Repealing Big Brother Act. Okay. It's in the House and Senate right now. It's going through trying to get support. If that bill passes, then Trump would decide, of course, whether to sign it or not. Now, Trump can also take executive action without Congress. He can just take executive action himself and say, you don't need to file a BOI. We are not going to have FinCEN enforcing this right now. We're going to let the courts figure it out. There's all these cases going right now, executive action, no BOI filing required for now. Now, I think it's very possible that he could come out with that statement, that his Department of Treasury, which is where FinCEN falls under, can come out with that statement and guidance right now. It would make sense. There's a ton of confusion. Trump's a business guy. It makes sense to where his base is and where the people that have put him in office, frankly, are right now on this issue. So we'll see. He's been silent on this so far. Guy's only been in office a few days. So that'll be the next determinative thing. But for the time being, you don't need to file a BOI if you don't want to. You can rely on the injunction in the Smith case. Texas Top Cop Shop injunction got removed by the Supreme Court, but there's still a pending injunction right now. Now, I want to hit a couple questions because a lot of people are like, well, should I just file that? I'm so tired of this back and forth. You can file if you want, but you don't have to. So you can voluntarily file. You can file yourself. My law firm, KQS Lawyers, we set up an entity every 15 minutes for clients across the U.S. We file BOIs. Some clients are like, just file the thing. I don't care. Some clients are like, only file it if I freaking have to, okay? Wait till the last minute. Also, my company, Main Street Business Services, we do company compliance for 10,000 plus entities. And in that entity, we're telling clients, do you want to file this or not? Right now, it's only voluntary, so it's not required. And we're, of course, monitoring this for our clients, providing updates to them. Now, for you, anyone listening here that's not a client or anyone that's like doing this on your own, working with your accountant, a lawyer, you can file this yourself if you want. It's not that complicated of a filing, but it is something you have to do, okay? Kind of like your tax return sometimes. But you could do this within 15 minutes online. It's not that complicated. Now, again, you don't have to. Now, here's what goes on the BOI filing. You put the name of the company, XYZ Industries LLC. you're going to put the tax ID or employer identification number of the entity. This is for your LLC or corporation. You're going to indicate what state it's set up in, and then you're going to disclose anyone who owns 25% or more, and you're going to include their name, date of birth, and their address. You don't provide their social, but you do have to provide a government-issued photo ID of each person who owns 25% or more, or who has substantial control, like the president of the corporation or the manager of an LLC. Those people would definitely have substantial control. So that's what's actually going on this BOI. The biggest pain of all of it, frankly, is this uploading of a government-issued ID. That's been the biggest hassle for most people when they file this thing, is you have to actually upload that during the process of filing the BOI. All right, now that's what you do to file it. Now, if you set up an entity before 2024, you had until January 1st, 2025 to file. Now, this injunction's in place, the deadline's passed, you're supposed to file, but again, FinCEN cannot require you to file it. That's still the case right now on January 24th, 2025. If you set up an entity in 2024, you had 90 days to file this BOI. For the first year, FinCEN said, let's give you 90 days to file it. It's kind of a new thing. If you set up an LLC or corporation in 2024, you have 90 days from the time you set up the entity with the state. Now in 2025, under the statute and what FinCEN has said in the past, is you have 30 days to file the BOI. From the time you get your LLC or corporation approved by the state, within 30 days, you got to file this business ownership information report to FinCEN. Now, again, it's only on a voluntary basis right now. You don't have to freaking file it. All right. Okay. Now, I hope that helps with the questions and where we're sitting right now. I'm going to, of course, be monitoring this and updating you on it. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel here. I'm giving a lot of information about legal requirements, strategies on how to protect your assets, save on taxes, grow and build wealth. And I want to be back here again covering this topic. I'm going to be following some of these other cases. Make sure you read the description, though. Okay, go to my video description. I've got links to some of my companies, but I provided exactly what FinCEN is saying right now. All these other news stories, all these other people pontificating on this right now, 90% of them have got it wrong. Just read what FinCEN is saying right now. They're the ones saying themselves that there is another injunction, the Smith versus Department of Treasury case, that prevents them from forcing you to file a BOI right now. That is on their own website. This is from the government themselves saying we cannot require you to file because of this other injunction. They mentioned the Texas Top Cop Shop case and the Supreme Court's ruling from yesterday, and they also mentioned this other case. So that's the critical takeaway I want to make sure everybody knew about right now. Again, make sure you're subscribed. I'll be back here providing you more updates. I'm Matt Sorensen. We'll see you next time.